Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
William always considered himself a lucky man. At 31, he had a solid career as a software engineer at a respected tech company, a comfortable apartment in a quiet neighborhood, and a wife he believed was his safe harbor. Jennifer, 30, worked as a marketing manager at a creative agency and was known for her infectious energy and easy smile. They'd met on a dating app 5 years earlier, married after 2 years of dating, and built what William thought was a strong marriage. Weekends were reserved for hikes in nature, trying new restaurants, or simply watching TV series cuddled up on the couch. The routine was predictable but comfortable. William never imagined that predictability was about to shatter completely. 3 months ago, Jennifer started casually mentioning she needed to spend more time with her girlfriends. Nothing alarming, William thought. She'd always had an active social circle, and he encouraged her to maintain her friendships. Friday nights became sacred for Jennifer. She'd say she was meeting Emma, her best friend since college, and other colleagues for dinner, movies, or drinks. William saw no issue with that. He himself used those solo evenings to play online video games with friends or work ahead on personal programming projects. Jennifer always came home around midnight, sometimes a little later, smelling nice and cheerful, sharing funny stories from the night's conversations. William would listen, laugh along, and feel grateful to have a wife who maintained her individuality. But there was something that subtly bothered William, almost imperceptible at first. Jennifer kept coming home later and later. Midnight turned into 1 a.m., then 1:30. When gently questioned, she'd laugh and say time just flew when they were talking, or that traffic had been terrible. William accepted these explanations without probing deeply, but a genuine worry began to grow. The roads were empty and dangerous that late at night. What if her car broke down? What if she got into an accident? This seemingly innocent concern led him to make a decision that would change everything. On a Thursday afternoon, William discreetly installed a security tracking app on Jennifer's car. He justified it to himself as merely precautionary, a way to ensure she stayed safe on those late-night drives. The app was discreet, sent real-time location alerts, and Jennifer wouldn't even need to know it was there. William didn't see himself as invasive, just a caring husband. He set up the system, tested it quickly, and kept the secret to himself. After all, it was just a safety measure, right? For the first 2 weeks, the app confirmed exactly what Jennifer said. She'd leave home at 7 p.m., drive to the neighboring district where she mentioned the restaurants and cinemas were, and stay out late. William would check occasionally, more out of curiosity than suspicion, and always felt a little foolish for having installed the tracker. Maybe he was being paranoid. Maybe Jennifer really was exactly who she claimed to be. But then, on the third Friday since installing the app, something changed. William was at home in his pajamas when he got a notification on his phone, unusual route detected. He frowned and opened the app. The blue dot representing Jennifer's car was moving in a completely different direction than usual. Instead of heading to the neighboring district, she was taking the highway out of town. William sat on the bed, watching the blue dot travel mile after mile. 20 minutes passed. 30. 40. Finally, the car stopped at a residential address in a distant gated community, nearly 30 miles from home. William tried to rationalize it. Maybe Emma had moved. Maybe it was another friend's house. He sent Jennifer a casual text, "Everything okay over there?" Her reply came quickly, "Yep, love. We're at the movies. Just started. Kiss." William looked at the app screen. The car was still parked at that residential address. There was no movie theater in that area. His stomach tightened. He didn't sleep well that night. When Jennifer got home at 1:15 a.m., William was awake in bed, pretending to read. She entered the room with her usual smile, smelling faintly of an expensive perfume he didn't recognize. "How was the movie?" he asked, keeping his voice neutral. "Great. It was a silly romantic comedy, but we laughed a lot, she replied, taking off her earrings and flopping onto the bed. William forced a smile and turned off the bedside lamp. The app was still open on his phone, hidden under his pillow, showing that night's history, 45 minutes parked at that unknown address. The following Friday, William watched again. Same route. Same address. Jennifer left home saying she was going out to dinner with the girls at an Italian restaurant she loved. The app showed her car heading straight for that residential community. William wrote down the full address. His mind raced, searching for innocent explanations, but none made sense. He looked up the address on Google Maps. It was a middle to upper-class residential area, spacious houses with well-kept gardens. No commercial spaces. No restaurants or cinemas. Just homes. And Jennifer was there again, for over 2 hours. William spent the next week in a state of silent tension. He analyzed every word Jennifer spoke, every gesture, searching for signs that would confirm or deny his growing suspicions. She seemed normal, maybe a little more distant when he tried talking about her day, but nothing obvious. Fridays were casually mentioned during the week. "Don't forget I'm going out with the girls Friday night, okay?" William would nod, smile, and feel a knot tightening in his chest. When the next Friday arrived, William made a decision. He couldn't take the uncertainty eating away at him. He needed to see it with his own eyes. At 6:30 p.m., he told Jennifer he was going out to meet a coworker. She barely looked up from her phone. "Okay, honey. Have fun." William left the house, but didn't go meet anyone. He drove to a gas station halfway between home and that mysterious address and waited. At 7:15, the blue dot on the app started moving. Jennifer had left home. William's heart raced. He kept a safe distance, following the route he now knew by heart. 40 minutes later, William was parked 2 blocks away from the house where Jennifer's car always stopped. He turned off the engine and watched through the windshield. The street was quiet, lit by yellowish streetlights. Well-maintained houses, tastefully landscaped yards, new cars in driveways, a neighborhood where people built peaceful lives. Or so it seemed. William saw Jennifer's car pull up and park in front of a 2-story brick-faced house. His heart pounded so hard he could hear his pulse in his ears. Jennifer stepped out of the car, fixed her hair, and walked to the front door. The door opened before she even rang the bell. A man appeared. William couldn't make out his face from that distance, but he noticed the posture, the height, the gray-streaked hair, a man in his mid-40s, perhaps. Jennifer stepped inside quickly, and the door closed behind her. William sat trembling in the car, not from cold, but from a mix of anger, pain, and shock. He wanted to leave, go home, pretend nothing was happening. But his feet felt glued to the floor. He waited. 5 minutes. 10. 15. 20. Then, through a side window of the house, he saw it. Jennifer and the man were in the living room. The curtain wasn't fully closed, and the interior light illuminated the scene perfectly. They were embracing, not a casual friend hug, but an intimate, lingering one. The man stepped back slightly and kissed Jennifer on the forehead, then on the lips. William felt a wave of nausea rise in his throat. With shaking hands, he grabbed his phone and took pictures, maximum zoom, multiple shots. The images were a little shaky but clear enough. He couldn't bear to watch any longer. William started the car and silently drove away, careful not to speed or draw attention. He drove through the dark suburban streets in a daze, his mind numb. He got home 40 minutes before Jennifer. He sat on the living room couch in the dark and waited. He stared at the photos on his phone again and again. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. Jennifer was having an affair. When she arrived at 12:30 a.m., William was in the kitchen making chamomile tea. He heard her keys in the door, her footsteps in the hallway. "Hi, honey. You're still up," she said, walking into the kitchen and giving him a quick kiss on the cheek. William caught the unfamiliar perfume again. "Couldn't sleep." "How was your night?" he asked, his voice colder than intended. Jennifer didn't seem to notice. "It was great. We had dinner at that new seafood place and then just talked about everything. You know how it is, once we start talking, we can't stop." William nodded slowly. "Glad you had fun," he said, and took a sip of hot tea. Jennifer yawned, said she was tired, and went to the bedroom. William stayed in the kitchen for another 20 minutes, staring at his empty cup, planning his next move. Saturday morning, William woke early. Jennifer was still sound asleep. He went to the office and started organizing everything. He transferred the photos he'd taken to his computer. Saved the tracking app records showing all the Fridays Jennifer had gone to that address. Took screenshots. Created a folder named Evidence and saved everything in 3 places: his computer, the cloud, and a USB drive. Then he looked up the house address in the public registry online and found the owner's name, Greg Mitchell, 46. The name didn't ring a bell. William dug deeper. He searched Greg Mitchell on social media and found a public profile, travel photos, business posts, and an old photo tagged with Jennifer's marketing agency. Greg had been a senior executive there. Had been. William found a 6-month-old news article, Executive departs agency following restructuring. Greg Mitchell had either been fired or left voluntarily. But clearly, he and Jennifer had worked together. William felt the pieces falling into place. They'd known each other from work. The affair had probably started before Greg left the company, or shortly after. Jennifer had never mentioned Greg at home, never said she stayed in touch with a former boss. William took a deep breath and decided the confrontation would happen today, not Monday, not after another week of lies. Today. Jennifer came down to the kitchen around 10 a.m., still in pajamas, yawning. "Morning, love. Sleep well?" she asked, pouring herself coffee. William sat at the table, his laptop open in front of him, his expression serious. "Jennifer, we need to talk," he said calmly. The tone made her stop mid-motion, cup suspended in the air. "About what?" she asked, trying to sound casual but with a hint of nervousness in her voice. "About where you've really been going on Friday nights," William replied. The following silence was heavy. Jennifer slowly set her cup on the counter. "What are you talking about?" she tried, but her voice came out weak. William turned the laptop so the screen faced her. "I'm talking about this." On the screen, the photos he'd taken the previous night, Jennifer and Greg embracing, Jennifer and Greg kissing. Below them, screenshots from the tracking app showing every Friday, the same address, consistent times. Jennifer went pale. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out for several seconds. "William, let me explain," she began, but he raised his hand. "No. You're not going to explain. You're going to answer." "How long?" William asked, his voice now sharp. Jennifer leaned against the counter, tears welling in her eyes. "William, please, how long, Jennifer?" he repeated, louder. She shrank back. 3 months, she whispered. William let out a bitter, humorless laugh. 3 months. 3 months of Friday nights. 3 months of lies about movies, dinners, girlfriends. 3 months you looked me in the eye and lied outright. Jennifer started crying. "I'm so sorry. I didn't want this to happen. It just happened. Greg and I had a connection, and after he left the agency, we started talking and, a connection?" William interrupted, disbelief in his voice. "You call that a connection? You're having an affair, Jennifer. An affair with your ex-boss. You're betraying our marriage. It's not what you think," she pleaded desperately. We just talk, we understand each other, it's not physical. William turned the laptop back and zoomed in on one of the photos. Not physical? I saw you through the window. I saw the kiss. I saw the way he touched you. Don't lie to me again, Jennifer. You've lied enough already. She crumpled, sobbing. We've kissed a few times, yes, but it never went further, I swear. William stood up from his chair, his body shaking with contained rage. Do you think that makes a difference? Do you think I care whether it was just kissing or more? You betrayed me, Jennifer. You broke our trust. You destroyed what we had. Jennifer reached out to him, pleading. William, please, I'll end things with him. I promise. It was a mistake. I was confused, I didn't know what I was doing. Please, we can get past this. William stepped back, out of her reach. Get past it? You want me to get past 3 months of betrayal? You want me to pretend it never happened? I'll go to therapy. We can do couples therapy. I'll do anything, William. I love you, she cried. William slowly shook his head. You don't love me, Jennifer. People who love don't do this. People who love don't lie straight to your face every night. People who love don't kiss someone else while their spouse is at home waiting. He walked down the hall and picked up a folder from the console table. He returned and placed it on the table in front of Jennifer. I called a lawyer this morning as soon as I woke up. He sent me some preliminary info about divorce. I'm giving you 48 hours to leave this house. You can take your personal belongings. Everything else will be handled through our lawyers. Jennifer stared at the folder like it was a venomous snake. You can't be serious. William, please, let's talk calmly. I am completely calm, William said, and his voice was indeed eerily composed. Calm enough for you to deserve. I could have made a scene last night at his house. Could have pounded on the door and humiliated you both. But I'm not that kind of person. I came home, gathered the evidence, and now I'm giving you the chance to leave with dignity. 48 hours, Jennifer. She kept crying, trying to argue, but William simply left the kitchen and went to the office, locking the door behind him. He heard her sobs through the wall for nearly an hour. Then he heard movement, hurried footsteps, cabinet doors opening and closing. Jennifer was packing. By late Saturday afternoon, she left the house with 2 large suitcases, her face swollen from crying, heading to her parents' place. William didn't help her carry the bags. He just watched from the office window. In the days that followed, William moved with calculated efficiency. He officially hired a divorce attorney, handed over all the evidence, and started the legal process. But there was one more piece of justice he wanted to carry out. Greg Mitchell was married. William had discovered that in his research, a wife named Linda, 2 teenage kids. Greg wasn't just having an affair with Jennifer, he was betraying his own family too. William created an anonymous email account and sent Linda Mitchell a curated set of photos and information, without identifying himself. Thought you should know where your husband's been on Friday nights, read the message. The bomb exploded quickly. Linda confronted Greg, who apparently tried to deny it but was caught by the evidence. The Mitchells' marriage imploded. William learned about it through an unexpected source, Emma, Jennifer's friend who was supposedly out with her on those Fridays. Emma called William a few weeks later to apologize. She hadn't known about the affair, Jennifer had never invited her out those nights, she just used Emma's name as an alibi. Emma was mortified and wanted William to know she had no involvement. William thanked her and hung up. Another layer of lies peeled away. The divorce proceeded without major obstacles. Jennifer tried to contest some asset division points, but the evidence of adultery worked in William's favor on several issues. Since they had no children, the process was relatively fast by legal standards. Jennifer asked to talk several times, sent long messages begging forgiveness and suggesting fresh starts. William never replied. He blocked her number and communicated only through lawyers. Greg Mitchell, meanwhile, didn't walk away unscathed either. In addition to his messy divorce, William later heard that Greg lost a major consulting client when the scandal became gossip in professional circles. Jennifer, for her part, quit her marketing agency job. Through professional networking channels, William heard she couldn't handle the gossip and judgmental stares from colleagues. She temporarily moved to her parents' house in another state, trying to rebuild her life far from the wreckage she'd created. William, on the other hand, focused on himself. He returned to the gym regularly, something he'd neglected in recent years. He dove into challenging work projects and earned a promotion 4 months after the divorce was finalized. He reconnected with old friends, traveled alone to places he'd always wanted to see, and slowly began rediscovering who he was outside that marriage. There were bad nights, moments of doubt and loneliness, but he refused to let the betrayal define the rest of his life. He'd been betrayed, but he wouldn't be destroyed by it. 6 months after the divorce was officially finalized, William was at a cafe near his office on a Saturday afternoon, quietly reading a science fiction novel he'd bought the week before. He heard the door chime and, out of reflex, looked up. And there she was. Jennifer walked in, hair shorter than before, wearing simple clothes, lacking the vibrant energy she used to have. She looked tired, faded. Their eyes met for a split second. William saw recognition, surprise, maybe even a flicker of shame. Jennifer seemed frozen, unsure whether to approach or run. William made the decision for both of them. He gave a brief, polite wave, distant but courteous, like he would to a casual acquaintance, then returned his eyes to his book. Jennifer stood still for a few more seconds, clearly hoping for something more, an invitation to talk, perhaps. A chance to explain, to apologize again. But William offered none of that. He turned a page, took a sip of coffee, and kept reading as if she weren't there. After an awkward moment, Jennifer went to the counter, ordered something to go, and quickly left without looking back. William didn't lift his eyes again until he heard the door chime once more, signaling she'd gone. He closed the book for a moment and looked out the window. Jennifer was already crossing the street, shoulders slumped, walking slowly. Part of him felt a twinge, not for her, but for the lost time, for the illusion he'd believed in for so long. But it was just that, a twinge. There was no more anger. No more pain. Only indifference and the certainty that he'd made the right choice. William reopened the book and kept reading. Life went on, and he was finally living his own. In the months that followed, William started dating again. Nothing serious at first, just casual dinners, light conversations, rediscovering human company. He met Sarah, a data analyst from another company, through a mutual friend. They talked for hours the first night, laughed at the same jokes, shared travel dreams. There was no rush, no pressure, just two people genuinely getting to know each other. William didn't immediately tell her about Jennifer and the affair. When he finally did, weeks later, Sarah listened quietly and then said something that stayed with him: "That doesn't define you. What defines you is how you dealt with it." William smiled. She was right. A year after the cafe encounter, William stood on a rooftop terrace at a new office launch party. The city sparkled below him, lights blinking in every direction. Sarah stood beside him, animatedly chatting with colleagues about a recent project. William looked around, soaking in the moment. He had a rising career, loyal friends, and a partner he respected, and who respected him back. He was no longer the man sitting 2 blocks from a stranger's house, shaking with shock and pain. He was someone who had faced the worst betrayal imaginable and emerged on the other side whole, stronger, even. His phone vibrated in his pocket. A social media notification. A photo tagged by a mutual friend from his marriage days. Out of curiosity, William opened it. It was a group shot from a corporate event. And there, in the bottom left corner, was Jennifer. She smiled at the camera, but it didn't reach her eyes. She looked like she'd returned to work, trying to rebuild her career. William zoomed in slightly, studying the face he'd once known so well. Something was missing there, a spark that had gone out. He briefly wondered if she ever thought of him, if she truly regretted it, if she understood the magnitude of what she'd lost. But then, almost laughing at himself, William closed the app and put his phone away. It didn't matter. What Jennifer thought, felt, or did was no longer his concern. Sarah touched his arm. "Everything okay?" she asked gently. William looked at her, into those warm, genuine eyes, and nodded. "Everything's okay. Better than okay, actually." He pulled her closer, and together they stood there, watching the illuminated city as the party buzzed around them. William took a deep breath, feeling the night air fill his lungs. It felt good. It felt like freedom. He'd turned the worst chapter of his life into the catalyst for something better. And in doing so, he hadn't just survived betrayal, he'd thrived beyond it. Down there, somewhere in that vast city, Jennifer was living with the consequences of her choices. Greg Mitchell was too. But up here on this rooftop, under faint stars competing with city lights, William no longer thought about them. He was present, alive, and truly free. And that safety app he'd installed months ago, the one that had revealed the devastating truth, remained deleted from his phone. He no longer needed to track anyone. He no longer needed to live in suspicion or surveillance. He trusted again, but this time with wisdom, with healthy boundaries, with eyes wide open. The betrayal had been brutal, but the lesson, however painful, had been valuable. William had learned you can't control others' choices, but you can always control your own response. And he'd chosen to respond with dignity, justice, and self-preservation. That choice had made all the difference. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.